Good evening, everyone. I am delighted to welcome all of you to today's online lecture on themes Mastering Dhamma in English for a Global Audience. It is an honor to have you with us for these enlightening sessions where we'll explore the essence of the Dhamma and how it can be effectively communicated to the global audience in English language. This sessions is organized as part of the 2024 actions plan by the Department of Buddhist and Pali Studies of Bhikshu University of Sri Lanka. The department has always been at the forefront of promoting the teachings of the Buddha, and today's events reflect our continued effort to spread Dhamma through modern mediums, enabling a global audience to connect with these timeless teachings. We are truly fortunate to have a distinguished resource persons to guide us in this endeavor. Our speaker for today is Dr. Venerable Dayarangala Kusalanyana, a highly respected scholar and practitioner in the field of Pali, Buddhist studies and Dhamma dissemination. Let me share a bit about his remarkable background. Venerable Kusalanyana has an extensive academic and practical background in Buddhist studies. He earned his first degree and master of philosophy in Pali language from the University of Peradeniya, and then went on the complete 2 master's degrees in arts, one from Harvard University and another from the Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies, University of Kelaniya. His academic journey culminated with doctorates of philosophy from the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. What makes him even more special is his experience in preaching Dhamma in English, particularly over the past 15 years across European countries. His ability to bridge cultures and communicate the timeless teaching of the Buddha in a language that resonates globally is truly inspiring. We are incredibly fortunate to have him share his insights today on how we can master the art of presenting Dhamma in English, enabling us to bring the Buddha's teaching to a wider audience. Actually, today, Venerable Kiramathero, Senior Lecturer, the head of the department, is also with us. I also welcome him. And now, without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Venerable Dayarangala Kusalanyana Thero to lead us in today's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Girandurukote Sasanratana Hamduru, for your very kind introduction. I'm also grateful to Venerable Kirama Vimalatisa Hamduru for his mentorship and guidance in my life, and also for making arrangements for this event. Last time when we spoke, I spoke about my experience in life, how I have gradually learned English and how I became comfortable in communicating in English, and eventually started looking for opportunities in the world to study and continue my studies. So I see many of you must be looking forward to traveling abroad, which is a passion of mine. You know, who doesn't like to travel, right? To see the world, and at the same time give something to the world. Giving something in the sense of understanding what different audiences need, and catering Dhamma according to their needs. So I am happy to be invited and to have the opportunity to engage in this workshop. So I have never used Google platforms for presentation, so I did not prepare a PowerPoint presentation. So I will be the only one speaking, and when it gets bored, you can look away and come back. And I believe these sessions are getting recorded, so when you have a need later, you can come back and access to these and maybe learn something again. I am grateful to all the venerables who are at the Bhikshu University teaching these student venerables, and also other students who are taking various courses in various capacities. I think one thing that is clear is in our effective communication in Dhamma is knowing your audience. To know your audience, you have to just open your eyes and look around. When you look around, if you see children, I think a lot of attention has to go to the children. In the United States, where I am currently living, I see a lot of passion for parents, Sri Lankan parents, for their children to learn Buddhism. They do go to Sunday schools in temples here, but sometimes the Sunday school has also some challenges. One of the challenges is that the venerable monks who are teaching there may not necessarily be speaking or comfortable in speaking in English. And this poses a challenge for the children to approach them and ask their questions or get a satisfactory answer. They may ask the question, but getting a satisfactory answer can be a challenge. So I have met many children who are very talented, who are being raised by Sri Lankan, American or Canadian parents. That way I see that one of the challenges for them is to ask something and get a reasonable answer. I think for that, these foundations that you lay out through education is very pivotal. And that means you must pay attention and learn and completely master in the content that you are studying in the university level. So I have traveled extensively in Canada and United States, two big countries, and I have also traveled in Europe and some other parts of the world. And I think the only reason that I got to do all these things is because I had the desire to do that. I think we need to have that passion. We need to have that wanting. We need to have that need in our heart, the burning desire. And then coupled with that, we need to have a good intention. The intention here is actually to gain experience and teach Dhamma in English. First, when you start to learn Dhamma and learn English, we have the fear of the worst. That means we imagine something and then we get the nervous feeling. That is a very natural response, right? That's a very natural response, and you have that experience because you want to do better. You want to do better, and therefore you feel this nervousness. Please never judge yourself for feeling any nervousness. That is to be left behind. That means that is to be forgotten, and then face the new experience, whatever it is that is coming, because each day is a new day. And when you learn each day is a new day, whatever you know, whether you make a mistake or not, sometimes you just have to express it. If you do not express yourself, I think no one will know that you can express these things in a different language. First of all, we are trying to communicate not in our first language. Our first language always often is the Sinhalese language or Tamil language or Hindi language or some other language. But in this case, we are trying to learn an international language that many people use and then teach something from that language. In that process, we need to be updated all the time with the current usages of that language. So, as I mentioned earlier, I had the desire to learn, I had the desire to continue improving myself, and coupled with that, I had the passion to travel. And I still keep doing that. When I finished my studies, one way I began exploring the world is through visiting other centers and other meditation retreats, and also trying to keep contacts with an educated community where they speak English all the time. They keep encouraging you to continue speaking English, continue learning English, so that you can also be part of that small community, which I think you will never regret. You will continue to improve with the association and company of these others who also equally are getting better or are good at English. So this is the kind of audience that you meet here in the United States or in Canada. In that, priority goes to children. If you can effectively communicate with children, you become instantly popular, instantly needed. Children have no fear of making mistakes. They do, but they just still make the mistake. And they would anyway ask the question the moment you are in front of them. Children here, I have seen that they would raise the hand, that they would anyway ask questions. So when you are here, you will experience that they are willing to communicate in English with you. Sometimes their parents would tell the children that no, speak in Sinhalese with Sadhu. When you speak in Sinhalese, you can improve your Sinhalese. And that, I think, is a disappointing thing to you, because you are here sometimes wanting to effectively communicate with them in English. And your need has been to always improve your side of English. For children here, they don't have that desire. They are already communicating. They are already speaking with that language, but they have this curiosity. They would switch between the languages. They would switch between Sinhalese and English, and sometimes in Canada they use French. I haven't learned French, but thankfully they use English. And also here in the United States, they prioritize Spanish, because there is a huge Spanish-speaking diaspora here in the United States. And I haven't learned that either. So English has been a very useful tool for me, no matter what audience I went to. And if you are curious what we do here, starting from children, we also face similar events that you face in Sri Lanka. You are able to visit Dhamma, and then you give instructions on, you just start, you have an opening, and then you know what to do when you are offering it to the Sangha. You know how to deliver a sermon, and then you know how to transfer merits. That's the basic structure. And we do all of that here with the Sri Lankan community. But when it comes to the non-Sri Lankan community, Americans or Canadians, they do not know that culture. They are there to observe. They sometimes come and participate in Katina ceremonies and ordination ceremonies, and they are able to participate, but then they get bored if we are only doing that program in Sinhalese language. They may leave, or they may patiently stay, but they will never come back. So I think even there, we need to have a combination of both English and Sinhalese so that we cater whatever we are doing to both audiences, right? And occasionally, not always, you get invited to schools. In those schools, you get to speak to children, maybe 8th grade children or high school children, like the advanced level children in Sri Lanka. So they get to engage with you, and sometimes the biggest challenge that they may be facing is the anxiety and stress that because they want to get to the best university and they want to be better at their studies, and they are dealing with a quite challenging period of their life because of some self-criticism or some kind of challenge, whether it is school grades or family situation or some other challenge. They may openly discuss that with you, and it's best you know how to respond to these audiences. So I have used stories of various kind, and I'm going to share one of the stories that I can use with children, with adult audiences, and with also non-Buddhists, because you get to meet non-Buddhists also in this world, whether you are in Sri Lanka or here. I know you are not going to go abroad right now and start speaking, teaching Dhamma. So we need to also learn to do what we learned today in Sri Lanka as well. So you could open a YouTube channel and start doing some work through that YouTube channel. And you may not have an audience in the beginning, but eventually, little by little, you will develop an audience. So back to the story. This is a story that I love. When I love that story, I apply it to myself, to my own life. Having applied it to my own life, I can also effectively share this story no matter what audience I reach to. If I had Christians around me, they would love this story. If I had atheists around me, they would love this story. So I have the confidence before even presenting the story that this will be well loved, well taken by any audience. And this is especially important for children to hear. So here's this first story that I like to share with you. Please remember it and see how I share it. There is not, it's your natural language, and you just learn to remember little details and then effectively communicate with that language. Okay, so you all know a Vietnamese monk named Thich Nhat Hanh, right? This is a story from him. So when Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh was a small novice monk, his teacher asked him to do something. And a novice monk, being very young and inexperienced, he got super excited. And his teacher asked him to bring the meditation bell from the meditation room. So I'm adding that line. That's not part of the story. I'm adding that line to make it simpler for the audience. So now the novice monk got excited and he wanted to run to the meditation hall, and he slammed the door behind him. Slammed the door, which is, you can just look at the audience when you are when you mention that, you slam the door, like raising your eyebrows so that they can see that this is not a right thing to do. And then his teacher stopped him and asked him to come back. My dear child, come back. And the novice monk came to the teacher. And the teacher said, now close the door again. This time with full of his presence, mindful presence, he very gently closed that door. Having closed it, he mindfully walked to the Dhamma hall, to the meditation bell. He mindfully picked it up and then gently brought it to the teacher. And his teacher never had to remind him on how to close the door ever again. Years later, Thich Nhat Hanh became a very big teacher, very famous teacher. And he went to Connecticut, that is the state next to the Massachusetts state where I am living right now. So he went to Connecticut to a Trappist monastery. Trappist monastery is a kind of monastery they have here in the United States. And there was a famous teacher named Thomas Merton. In that, his books are very famous in the United States. He has been a very good theologian and a teacher and a writer and a poet. So Thich Nhat Hanh visited that monastery and shared this childhood experience with Thomas Merton. And when Thomas learned, we would call him Tom, when Tom learned this story, he said, before even you shared this story with me, I saw how carefully you closed this door. Every moment when you are at a door, you are very mindful, you give fullest of your presence to just that simple activity of closing the door. And Thomas was so inspired. And Thich Nhat Hanh went back to France. He lived at his monastery named Plum Village. So you are adding little details to the story. And Thomas, having been inspired, he shared this story with his own audience. A story of closing the door and what Thich Nhat Hanh shared this with him. And there was a Catholic lady in that audience, and she was so inspired. She went to Plum Village in France, and she went only because she wanted to see how Thich Nhat Hanh closed the door. Now with that story, you can open up a discussion about mindfulness. You can ask questions and ask children or any other audience you are with. You can just know your audience, whether it is children or parents or just a general audience. You could ask them, what did you think about this story? You can engage with them. You don't have to be talking all the time. You can let them talk and you become the listener. And then you can open it up for discussion and say, now it's time for discussion. And you don't have to ask, you don't have to direct the discussion toward me. You can say, it's time for each and every one of us to engage in discussion. And some would say we learned about mindfulness from this story, how to mindfully close the door. And we learned something to teach our children at home. We learned something to apply to our own life. And these are, tiny stories that get very far, and, you will be well loved. Why you will be well loved? Because Thich Nhat Hanh is a famous teacher, because this is a Buddhist story, because it is simple, because it involves life, because it can be taught to any audience. So this is one thing that has helped me. Anytime I am invited to say something, in the beginning, they wouldn't know that I could say something in English. So I had to ask from the chief monks, can I say it in English? And then they quickly say, of course, do that in English. And then they learn that I'm able to do that. And then invitations come your way. So you have to first open that gate. And then when they learn that you are able to effectively communicate in English, I'm humbled when I'm saying that. I'm still learning as well. And they would keep putting you in that position so you can speak. දැන් මම සිංහලෙන් ටිකක් කියන්න. මොකද මෙච්චර වෙලා කියපු දේවල් වලින් මොනවා හරි එක දෙයක් හෝ තේරුනේ නැත්තම් ඒක සිංහලෙනුත් කියන එක වටින නිසා. එකක් තමයි අපි ලංකාවෙන් හොඳට අධ්‍යාපනයක් ලබලා එහි පරිණත භාවයක් යම් තරමකට ලබලා අපිට ආසාවක් තියෙන්න ඕනේ ලෝකේ සංචාරය කරන්න. පළවෙනි එක. මහ ලොකුවට විනෝද වෙන්න නෙමෙයි ලෝකේ සංචාරය කරන්න, ලෝකේ දකින්න. මොකද අපේ ජීවිතය කෙටි. ඉතින් මේ කෙටි ජීවිතය තුළ අපේ මනසටත් හොඳයි අලුත් තැන් දකින්න එක. දෙවෙනි එක තමයි ජාත්‍යන්තර භාෂාවක් අපි ඉගෙන ගනිද්දි බය නැති කරගන්න එක. ඒ බය නැති කරගන්නවා කියලා කියන්නේ මිස්ටේක් එකක් කරන්න අපි කරාට අපි පස්සේ අපිට ඒක මතක් වුණාට ඒක අපි හිත ඉන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද අලුත් දෙයක් අපි කරලා අරක අමතක කරලා දානවා. මොකද ලෝකෙහි වැරද්දක් වෙන්නේ නැති මිනිස්සු නැති නිසා. ඉතින් තුන්වෙනි එක තමයි අපි අපේ ඉන්ටෙන්ෂන් එක. අපේ චේතනාව වැඩිපුරම ඇති කරගන්න ඕනේ මම ලෝකයට ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාවෙන් දෙයක් කියන කෙනෙක් බවට පත් වෙනවා කියලා. ඒක ලංකාවේ හිටියත් කරන්න පුළුවන්, මෙහෙ හිටියත් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ලංකාවේ ඉන්නවනම් YouTube channel එකක් හැමින් ආරම්භ කරලා හොඳ voice quality හදාගෙන, voice කියන්නේ mic එකක් හොඳ අරගෙන ඒකෙන් හොඳ content හදලා ඒකට audio එකක් add කරලා අපිට අවශ්‍ය දේ කොලයක් බලාගෙන හරි අපිට හොඳ voice එකකින් හොඳට act කරලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම කිව්ව ගමන් ඒක එක දවසක් දෙකක් තුනක් යද්දි ෆේමස් වෙන එකක් නෑ. නමුත් කාලයක් යද්දි අපිට අත්දැකීමක් ලැබෙනවා. ඒක අපි වෙනුවෙන් කරගන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ තව කාලයක් යද්දි ඒකට අවශ්‍ය ඔඩියන්ස් එකක් හැදෙනවා. ඉතින් ලංකාවේ අපි කරනවනේ අර ස්පිරිචුවල් ටුවරිසම් කියලා දෙයක්. ඒ කියන්නේ භාවනාව කියලා දෙනවා ලංකාවට එන සංචාරකයන්ට. අර නිලඹ භාවනා මධ්‍යස්ථානය කියලා කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ තැනක්. ඊට පස්සේ අර work away කියලා සයිට් හදාගෙන ඒවා නොමිලේ හදාගන්න පුළුවන්. අපේ තැන් විශේෂයෙන්ම විහාරස්ථාන විදේශිකයට එක කාමරයක් තියෙනවා. ඇවිල්ලා ස්වේච්ඡා සේවය කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉංග්‍රීසි උගන්වන්න පුළුවන් කියලා ඒ සයිට් එක අපිට හදාගෙන විදේශිකයට එන්න කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඉංග්‍රීසි දැන් අපිට පුළුවන් chat GPT පාවිච්චි කරලා අපිට අවශ්‍ය ඊමේල් එක හදාගෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන එකට උත්තරයක් දාලා ඒ විදියට ඒව හදාගන්න. ඒ අපි ලංකාවේ ඉඳන් කරන්න පුළුවන් දේ. දැන් මම ඉන්න රටවල් බැලුවහම එකක් කැනඩාව, එකක් ඇමරිකාව. ওই දෙකේම මම නිතර යවෙනවා. ඉතින් එහෙම යවෙද්දී මට හම්බෙන ඔඩියන්ස් එක විවිධාකාරයි. මුල්ම ඔඩියන්ස් එක තමයි විශේෂයෙන්ම දෙමාපියෝ, මෙහි ඉන්න දෙමාපියෝ කැමති ඉංග්‍රීසි කතා කරනවා නම් හාමුදුරුවෝ. ඒ දෙමාපියෝ කියලා කියන්නේ ලාංකික දෙමාපියෝ. මොකද ලංකාවේ දරුවන්ට අර දෙමාපියොන්ට ලැබිච්ච දේ ලංකාවෙන් ලබා දෙන්න හාමුදුරු නම කරා ඒගොල්ලෝ උත්සාහ කරන නිසා. ඉතින් ඒ වෙලාවට ඉංග්‍රීසි දන්න හාමුදුරු කෙනෙක් වුණාම හරිම පහසුයි ඒ ළමයින්ට අවශ්‍ය දේ ඉෆෙක්ටිව්ලි කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න. විශේෂයෙන්ම ළමයෙක්ගේ ඩිසිප්ලින් එක හැදෙන විදියට මොකක් හරි කවියක් වුණත් කමක් නැහැ. ඒක බොහොම හොඳට අපිට ඉංග්‍රීසි වලට පරිවර්තනය කරලා කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. උදාහරණයක් විදියට අනුව ලගිනා තැන දත හැකි වෙයි සතා ගැන මා හිඳින සැතපෙන තැනින් කාටත් දැනෙයි මා ගැන. මං හිතන්නේ කවිය එහෙම වුණේ නැත්තම් නිවැරදි ඇති. ඒ වගේ කවියක් අරගෙන උනත් අපිට ළමයින්ට කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. According to the place where you happen to be living or you happen to live, you can know according to the place you can know the animal, which means if a cow is living at a certain place, you have the smell of a cow, you have the cow dung all over the place, and you know there's a cow living in that place. So you can know the animal by the location. And according to a place where a good child is living at, you can know that it is a good child. Neat bedroom and neat bathroom and clean habits and also slippers and sandals in certain location, and there is a pleasant atmosphere. So, using something simple as that, you can just translate that immediately to English. You are just translating what you have gathered, and then that will be what you will be communicating with them. ඒ විදිහට අපි එකින් එක කොහෙන් හරි අපිට ලැබෙන අවස්ථාවක ඒ ළමයි වෙනුවෙන් දෙයක් කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. මේකට දෙමාපියෝ හරිම කැමතියි. දෙවෙනි එක තමයි විශේෂයෙන්ම දෙමාපියොන්ට ඒ වගේම අපි mindfulness ගැන කතා කරනවා නම් සිහිය ගැන ඊට පස්සේ වෙනත් ඔය කතෝලික උනත් ඔඩියන්ස් එකකට හරියන විදියට ඉස්කෝලේක ළමයින්ට හරියන විදියට අපි ස්ටෝරීස් කිහිපයක් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ඒ ස්ටෝරීස් වලින් එකක් තමයි මම අර තික්නාහන් කතාව තුලින් ඉදිරිපත් කරේ. සිහිය ගැන. සිහියෙන් දොරක් වහන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක ජීවිතේට අදාළ කරගන්න. Let me just mute this one person. අදාළ කරගන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා අපි මේ වගේ කතාවක් භාවිත කරලා අපිට කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ ඒ ටික තමයි මම මුලින්ම මට කියලා දෙන්න ඕනුනේ. And knowing that you are first never worried about making mistakes, and I have had times where I know that I made a mistake, you know. There has been bigger audiences that I have gone and spoken to. This one time I remember I just could not translate the word satipatthana into English. I was, you know, it just didn't occur to my mind. and I don't worry about it. That's what happened at that level, at that moment. And you know, after that I've done many more occasions where I spoke that word and translated it into English comfortably, because that one mistake or one event where I could not do it properly, you know, it's forever remembered, and I'm grateful for that moment, and I can now use that and never forget to translate that into English. So mistakes like that can happen, and occasionally when you are suddenly invited to present, you may not be well prepared. So you just have to pull something off of your head and try to do something, but you cannot always expect it to go right. Occasionally you may feel like you are struggling a little bit, and that is okay. However, I have heard from some people, not to me, but I have heard when some monks try to effectively communicate Dhamma in English, when they are struggling too, then the message does not get peacefully delivered. So therefore preparation is so important, right? So in my life, whether or not I am told to speak, I've always I have something to say. You know, suddenly, you know, in Canada's temple in Mississauga, Canada, there is a temple named Western Buddhist Meditation Center, where Venerable Bhante Saranapala and Venerable Nayaka Hamduro, Dhammavasa Nayaka Hamduro, and there are about now 11 monks living in that place, and all of us sometimes go to alms givings, dana ceremonies, and then before going, I always find a story and remember that and keep it memorized with details. Not memorized word by word, but I kind of know the gist of it, and in case I am asked to speak or give the Bhukthanumodhanava, the talk after having the meal, I would be doing it. You know, in the first couple of minutes, it may be a little uncomfortable, because sometimes, you know, your mind is always not coordinating, or the body is not always coordinating with the needs of the society. But for me, I know that, and I always never repeat the same story again and again. So if I am told to give the talk after the dana, this is how I do it. You know, just imagine that you have now come to a dana ceremony, and in that dana ceremony, you know, you are told to say something, and oftentimes I time myself, I ask how much time I have. They say 10 minutes because monks and lay people, they all have busy lives and they only have so much time, right? So when you have so much time, you just need to time it properly. And when you time it properly, they love you. You just finish it within the given time. You just finish it within 10 to 15 minutes time. That's the maximum time that they can hold their attention to. And I would say, first, when we begin, I would say venerable members of Mahasangha. Or if there is a very chief monk there, I would say Venerable Bhante Brahmanagama Muditanayaka Hamduro, the chief prelate to North Americas. So I would say his title with very much of giving respect, and other distinguished venerable members. So if there are 3 senior monks, I would even respectfully say their names: Venerable Kassapa Hamduro and Venerable Dhamma Vasanayaka Hamduro. You can just combine Sinhala and English there. And then you would say, and dear Dhamma friends, or you could say, today Kasun Mahatma and Samadara Nona invited the venerable monks of the Western Buddhist temple to our house, to their house, and venerable monks are now seated respectfully and have been offered the dana. And having done that, this is the time for concluding the ceremony. And you would say the purpose of this almsgiving ceremony is to invoke blessings or transfer merits. If it is to invoke blessings to their elderly parents, you respectfully say to invoke blessings to the parents who are celebrating their birthday. You can just know the purpose and say it. And you could also, often that these are merit-making events, so you could say, today they are intending to transfer merits to their departed relatives. Or I often hear Bhante Sarnapala say, to transfer merits to those who have said goodbye to us, which means, they said forever goodbye, that they are not, they have passed away. And that's how he said. And I love that. I just, sometimes I also use that kind of language. And the venerable monks have performed a blessing chanting for all of you, wishing you good health, happiness, longevity, and healing. Any of those things that you say in Sinhalese, you just literally translate that into English. Venerable monks have offered a blessing chanting of Mangala Sutta, Ratana Sutta, and Metta Sutta, Karaniya Metta Sutta, invoking blessings to all of you, wishing you good health and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, and wishing you longevity, greatest of health, and wishing you good things to happen in your lives. So you've said that. And you could also incorporate that with the family's needs. You could say, the 2 children of this family, Geetani and Sanju, are going to high school starting from next month. So we specially bless them to have a very successful academic career. You have to say very successful academic start, something like that. So you kind of make it personal to the family. And this is knowing the audience. This is just entering their hearts with knowing what they actually intend to hear. And you could say, today I'm going to share a story that will be useful in your overall family life. And the story is something I have learned, not necessarily from the Buddhist world, but a story that's away from the Buddhist world, but can be incorporated with the Buddhist world. So as you saw in the previous story, It was not necessarily a sutra or anything like that. People are not willing to listen to a sutra at that moment. It has to be something that simple, something that they can remember. So this story starts like this. There were three elderly men standing in front of a house, a big mansion. And the landlady, that means the wife of the house, the owner of this house, she saw them. And when she saw them, she approached the three older gentlemen and asked, do you need anything? Can I help you? And the three old men say, thank you for checking in with us. We would like to come in. And she said, of course, you are welcome to come in. But one of the men said, is your husband home? And she said, no, he's away for business. He'll be back this evening. And the men said, of course, we won't come in if he's not there. We can wait outside. Don't worry about us. And later, the husband came home and she mentioned about the three men outside the house. And the husband told her, yes, invite them in. And she went back to the three men and asked them to come in. And the three men said, only one of us can go in. That's our rule. And then the three men named each person. One man is wealth, another man is success, another man is love. And the woman got so excited. She went to her husband and she told him, look, these three are very special. One is wealth, another is success, another is love. And only one of them can come. Who do we invite to the house first? And they were, communicating and trying to figure it out, trying to understand who to invite. And at that time, their daughter-in-law heard this conversation and she said, our house can need a little extra love. We should invite love. They were earlier arguing that no, we should invite more wealth. We should invite success. That's all we need. But it was the daughter-in-law. So you can see how family relationships kind of are interacting and helping each other to figure things out. We should invite love. And then they all agreed as a family. And the wife went to the gate and invited love. Right then, at that moment, the other two also followed. The success and wealth. And the lady asked, wait a minute, you said only one can come in. And the three gentlemen responded, yes, but if you choose love, the other two also follow. So this is a story that also works for a wider audience. If you know that this audience has never listened to this story from you before, you can share that to that audience. I remember sharing this to a group in Canada after a Dana ceremony, where I added a little bit of other details to it, and the Nayaka Hamdru really liked that story. He said, next day I went to another Dana and said, can you say that same story again? So by then I had already prepared another story. So I shared that story combined with this story. So you can see how you can captivate the audience with a simple story like that, right? And the addition I did to on the second day is that there were children there in that in that family, and these children have invited their friends to come over. So, and they were also preparing to enter this next level of their education. So I said, follow your heart, but take your brain with you. And I incorporated that with the story of keeping 5 precepts. How 5 precepts are very important, and how they are. They are like a car, and if the car has a steering wheel and an engine and brake fluids and brakes and wheels and also the body. These are like 5 precepts. When one thing is missing, of the 5 precepts, or one thing is missing in the car, you are not going to go to your destination. I would say things like, when you are building your own empire, having strong pillars are important, and these pillars are informed by the precepts. We go to deep roots, and when we go to deep roots, these precepts are the guiding principles. And especially for children here, I would say, when you are at high school level or a little bit before that, you will be introduced to vaping. Vaping is a kind of smoking they do here. You will be introduced to alcohol. And as Buddhist children, you are supposed to learn to say no. Why do we say no? You would say, I have learned from the monks to keep my precepts. And I keep my precepts very close to my heart. And when I keep my precepts, I do not want to break them. If I do not break them, I have my mental clarity and I can focus on my studies, and I feel proud of myself. Whenever I break any precept, I may get into an addiction and you may not save my life. So the children can learn to respond this way through the monks, and they remember it. It gets programmed into their own mind. And that is how I kind of emphasize the importance of precepts. But I also share this other story because I mentioned that follow your heart, because everybody, this is the millennials language, Gen Z language. Gen Z means the last generation of a century. The Z letter. Z is pronounced as Z here in the United States. So they say Gen Z. Gen Z always uses social media, and they develop the influencer mentality, and they always say follow your heart. So I normally use that and say, take your brain with you, because when your heart tells you to eat too much sugar, you may be eating too much sugar. That's not healthy for you. This is when you should also take your brain with you and say, nope, I'm stopping my sugar habits. I'm controlling my weight, and I want to be healthy. I want to be presentable to the world, to myself. Therefore, I take my brain every time my heart tells me to do something. Therefore, I think that is how you can enter to their hearts and teach this other story from the Zen Buddhist tradition. This is about precepts. There was a monk who thought he was enlightened. He went to his teacher and said, I think I have come to the end of all realizations. And the teacher said, of course, that may be true, and there is a test that you have to face. And the student very proudly said, I am happy to face any test that you give. And the teacher said, look, well, this is Japan. So the teacher said, look at that bottle of sake, that is a bottle of alcohol, some kind of alcohol produced by rice in Japan. And then look at that goat outside, or there will be a pretty woman momentarily entering your room. One thing you could do is you should do one of them, and you could see if you could control your precepts. And the student decided, I don't want to break my precepts and sleep with a woman. I don't want to kill an animal. I may just simply mindfully drink the bottle of sake, alcohol. And this did not go well. You can just make it dramatic. You can add dramatic effects. The student got drunk, and the next morning when he woke up, the woman was in his bed and the goat on the table. And this is talking directly at those who might have a tendency to get addicted to alcohol. So you can just, see how happy parents become when they learn such a story, how happy children become. This is not found in the sutras or anything, but this is just general knowledge, and you can just make it valuable for them. And again, when you have shared something like that to that audience, you would say, so that's all for today, and let us transfer merits now. And in transferring merits, I ask you to join your palms together, or make a lotus palm, you can say that. Join your palms together and gently close your eyes and say, recite the gathas, say the gathas, recite the gathas. Together with me, you could say idam me ñātinang hotu, and at the same time, if you know that the water ceremony is happening, which is about pouring the water into a cup, you could also say, you can all come together now and hold the pot and start pouring water while monks will be reciting a gatha, and together with us you could also recite idam me ñātinang hotu, or whatever way they want to do it. You would just cater it to them. And now when you have done that, you could say, let us now transfer merits to heavenly beings. May heavenly beings rejoice in this merit and transform their happiness such to greater happiness. May they protect you, guard you, and guide you in your lives. May there be every blessing in your lives. With these intentions in mind, you have to say that. With these intentions in mind, please recite the gatha to transfer merits. Gatha is verse. You can say, please recite the gatha just to make it more familiar, to transfer merits together with me. Ettavata chamehi. That's how you do it. And finally you could say, now the venerable monks will recite a final blessing verse to invoke blessings to you all. Please receive the blessings by joining your palms together. And then all the senior monks together with you will say, Abhivadana silissa nichang vadhapachayino. You could just end there. As I was sharing this, another story came to my mind. This is about, psychological health. How people build a mental world, mental construct about a thing. So I also share this story in meditation retreats all the time. And this has always worked about dealing with the noises. So I say there was a monk who wanted to find the quietest place to meditate. And this monk decided to get on a canoe. Canoe is a little boat, and get into the middle of the ocean. So he canoed to the ocean, and having stationed there, he began meditating. Now you can act a little bit like meditating, closing your eyes and keeping your palms like this and meditating, and take a moment to meditate. And no soon, that means immediately, a little bit later, or you could use whatever language you want to say, this monk began hearing noises, some sounds. And this sound sounded like tuck, talk, some kind of, you can use the sound effects. And you could also, kind of take a moment for them to hear that, when you say it. And now the monk, what do you think the monk was doing? he began examining the sound in his own mind. I came to a noise-free place. Look what is happening to me. This persistent noise, continuous noise is starting to bother me. And now he developed a mental story about it. He thought, there must be these fishermen. There must be these fishermen making noises. These fishermen have no clue that I came to the quietest place on earth in the middle of the ocean with the intention to meditate. Now you can, speed up the way you speak, because you have to show the anger being built. And now the monk, he could not concentrate his mind. He became restless, which is a hindrance, right? One of the hindrances. He became restless. He complained so much mentally. And then he decided to yell at these fishermen. He opened his eyes only to see that there was another boat, an empty boat, hitting against his own boat. All that anger, all that frustration, all that restlessness, all that mental noise was a waste of time. And the monk came to a great realization that day. Monk realized that, well, these noises outside the world are just empty boats. They have nothing to do with me. And the mental story that I develop about it, it's just an empty boat. I didn't even see any fishermen. The truth was far from reality. The reality was that it was just an empty boat. And you could now incorporate that between something like this. There's a gap between reality and our mental expectations. Bigger the gap is, greater the suffering is. Now you can begin to teach noble truth of suffering with it. Bigger the gap is, greater the suffering is. You just gently bring the truth of suffering. And how do we bring the suffering lower? You just thin the gap. You just bring the gap closer and come to reality. And when you are with reality, you do not build expectations for things to be different from what they actually are. And then you are at peace, because you accept the fact that there is suffering, and there is the origin of suffering, your craving, and that there is the cessation of it when you know the truth. And then there is the path leading to the cessation. So you could also use simple sutras like Sedaka Sutta. Sedaka Sutta says, by protecting oneself, you protect others. And you can use the acrobat story there, that there was a performing student and a teacher. And the teacher told the student that, you protect me and I protect you, and we will perform and make so much money. And at that point, the student said, that's not how this goes. You protect yourself and I will protect myself. And the teacher said, that's what I meant. And you could simply say, how do we protect each other? How do we protect oneself and others? And then you could pull from the sutta and say, you protect oneself and others through patience, caring, loving kindness, and non-cruelty, compassion. You could just use the Eightfold Path teaching here, right speech or right thoughts, privately and publicly radiating loving kindness to those around you. You could always, take an entryway through a short story like that. You could use the Mangala Suttas story, Ratana Suttas, Karaniyametta Suttas story. And you could also recite them in English. You can memorize, this is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness, who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech. That will be a Dhamma talk by itself. You just didn't know how to give a Dhamma talk. There was a monk, a Cambodian monk, who was told to give a Dhamma talk, and he just didn't know how to give a Dhamma talk, but he had memorized the Metta Sutta in English, and he just said that and said sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. People really loved it. There was a lot of sadhus coming. Any questions? I should stop talking and then maybe respond to your questions. Thank you for listening. I'm grateful that you stayed with me through and through and continued listening. Do you have any questions? I'll be happy to answer. Whether in English or in Sinhalese, feel free to ask. Simalanduwe Vimala Sarahamdru.
Thank you, Reverend sir. I just want to ask, how can we find the link of this session?
Well, I think
the meeting.
I believe that it will be posted when it's available later, but I am recording it myself and I will upload it to Kusala TV, so that you can have access to it, and I'm not sure if there is a chat box here. You could Google Kusala TV and there will be the session there. All right?
Okay, Reverend sir, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, there is a chat place. I could just post it there. Yeah, you are welcome to visit this YouTube channel where I post many of small talks, Piritanusasana, anything of that sort. I record and I post them here. I kind of composed a little video and post them there, thinking that some monks in Sri Lanka or somewhere will learn how to just deliver a sermon based on that, whether it is a Katina ceremony or any kind of event that I happen to be at, and I would record myself or other monks, including Venerable Bhante Sarnapala, Venerable Samita, Bangladeshi monks, my friends Venerable Pierakit, and Venerable Dr. Premaratana. I have recorded their events live and then I add the audio and post there, so you could learn from there. I've done almost all events like Pirithanusasana, Katina sermons, and I like to record them and then post it into this YouTube channel to educate the monks. So there is a playlist there. You could go to Educating Monks playlist and then you will find it in, I have just posted it into your chat box. Any other questions? I believe if you want to ask anything in Sinhalese, feel free to. I'm happy to also respond in Sinhalese. Sinhalen ahanawa නම් ඒත් කමක් නැහැ. අපි උත්තර දෙනවා සතුටින්. තව වෙලාව තියෙනවා නම් තව කියන්නත් පුළුවන්. පිරිත්තානුශාසනාව
කියනවා මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා කතා කරපු හාමුදුරුවෝමයි මේ අපිට ගෲප් එකක් හරි මොකක් හරි මේ ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් මේ ඉස්සරහටත් මේකේ ක්ලාසස් දිගටම වෙනවද මේ විදිහට නැත්නම් මේක එක සෙෂන් එකක් විතරයිද කියලා දැනගන්න සහ ඉස්සරහට වෙනවා නම් ඒ කොහොමද වෙන්නේ මොකක් throughද කියලා චුට්ටක් ඒ ගැන දැනගන්න කැමතියි.
මේක දැන් සංවිධානය කරපු හාමුදුරුවරුන්ට මම හිතන්නේ ඒකට උත්තර දෙන්න පුළුවන් අපේ ගිරාඳුරුකෝටේ සාසනරතන හාමුදුරුවන්ට මේක භික්ෂු විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය හරහා කෙරෙන වැඩසටහනක්. එතකොට විටින් විට භික්ෂු විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය හරහා මේ වගේ වැඩසටහන් කරගෙන යනවා. ඉතින් දැන් කලින් මම එක වැඩසටහනක් කරා මේ දෙවෙනි එක. මම හිතන්නේ අපේ සාසනරතන හාමුදුරුව කැමති නම් ඒකට උත්තරයක් දෙන්න.
අපි දැනට නම් සංවිධානය කරලා තියෙන්නේ අවුරුද්දකට දෙකක් විතර වගේ කරන්න. අපි බලමු ඉස්සරහට ඩිපාර්ට්මන්ට් එකත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරලා මේක කන්ටිනියු වැඩසටහනක් විදිහට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් කියලා චුට්ටක් සාකච්ඡා කරලා බලලා දැනුම් දීමක් කරන්න.
එතකොට ඒක මම හිතන්නේ අපේ Facebook සමාජ මාධ්‍ය හරහා ඒ වගේම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයේ මම හිතන්නේ ඒක අන්තර් කමියුනිකේෂන් හරහා සහ පිටුවක් තියෙනවා නම් ඒ හරහා අපිට දැනගන්න ලැබෙවි. ඒ එහෙම තමයි මේ වැඩසටහන් ඇත්තටම විශ්වවිද්‍යාලවල ගොඩක් වැඩසටහන් තියෙන නිසා කාලේ තියෙන හැටියට තමයි අපි මේ වගේ වැඩසටහන් අපිට කරන්න ලැබෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අපි කාලයක් තිස්සේ උත්සාහ කරා මේ වැඩසටහන කරන්න අර කලින් කරපු එකේ part 2 එකක් විදියට. නමුත් මේක අලුත්ම වැඩසටහනක් විදියට කෙරුණේ. ඉතින් මට ඒ ගැන සතුටුයි. ඉතින් මේ උනන්දු අපි ඇත්තටම අගය කරනවා. මොකද හාමුදුරුවරුන්ට තියෙන්න ඕනේ ඒ බය නැතිකමත් උනන්දුවත් තිනෝ වැරදුනාට කමක් නැහැ කියලා බය නැතිකමත් උනන්දුවත් තමයි ඕන වෙන්නේ. එතකොට අනිත් ටික ඔක්කොම හරියනවා. වෙනත් මොනවද තියෙන ගැටලු? එහෙම නැත්නම් ගැටලු නැතත් වෙන අදහස් මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? යමක් තේරුණාද? තේරුණේ නැද්ද? ඒ වගේම මීට වඩා අපිට කරන්න දෙයක් තියෙනවද? ඒව වුණත් අපි කැමතියි දැනගන්න.
හාමුදුරුවෝ කියපු කරුණු බොහොම පැහැදිලි හාමුදුරුවනේ. ගොඩක් ස්තුතියි, ගොඩක් තෙරුවන් සරණයි. ඔබ වහන්සේට තෙරුවන් සරණ ප්‍රාර්ථනා කරනවා. මේ වැඩසටහන සූදානම් කරපු ඒ නායක හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේලා ප්‍රධාන හැම දිනෙකටම සහ අනුග්‍රහය දක්වන්නට යෙදුන අපේ නායක හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේට. ඉතින් මම කැමති රික්වෙස්ට් කරන්න අපිට පුළුවන් නම් යම්කිසි ක්‍රමවේදයකට එනි chance එකක් තියෙනවා නම් මේ අපිට මේක ඉස්සරහට දිගටම කරගෙන යන්න. මම හිතනවා මේක ගොඩක් වැදගත් කියලා. මොකද නායක හාමුදුරුවෝ පැහැදිලි කරා වගේ ලෝකෙට බුදුදහම අරගෙන යන්න තේරවාදී භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා විදිහට ලංකාවේ ඉන්නේ බොහොම සීමිත පිරිසක්, පොඩි පිරිසක්. ඉතින් ලෝකෙට අරගෙන යන්න අපි සාපේක්ෂව හිතනවා අනිත් රටවල් වල, ඒ කියන්නේ අනිත් ෆොරින් හාමුදුරුවරුන්ට වැඩිය තේරවාදී බුදුදහම සම්බන්ධව ලොකු අධ්‍යයනයක් ලංකාවේ ඉන්න අපේ හාමුදුරුවරු කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා මේ ධර්මයේ ලෝකෙට අරගෙන යන්න අපිට තියෙන එකම මේ ඒ කියන්නේ බාධකය තමයි භාෂාව, ලැන්ග්වේජ් එක කියන එක. ඉතින් ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂාව ලෝකේ ප්‍රධාන භාෂාව නිසා ඒ භාෂාව තුළින් අපිට මේ බුදුදහම ඉස්සරහට අරගෙන යන්න තේරවාදී හාමුදුරුවරු විදිහට ලංකාවේ ඉන්න අපේ බෞද්ධ භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා විදිහට අපිට පුළුවන් නම් මේක ඉස්සරහට අරගෙන යන්න ඒ ඉංග්‍රීසි නොලෙජ් එක ගන්න, භාෂාව සම්බන්ධව දැනුම ගන්න, ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් බණ ටිකක් කියන්න. ඒකට වහන්සේලාට දිගට මේ විදිහේ සෙෂන් එකක් දැන් කොළඹ තිබුණ කලින් ක්ලාසස් නායක හාමුදුරනේ. නමුත් අර දුර පළාත් වල ඉන්න හාමුදුරන් වහන්සේලාට වැඩම කර කිරීමේ තියෙන අපහසුතාවය නිසා බොහෝ දුරට ඒක ඉදිරියට කෙරුණේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒක නිසා අපිට මේ වගේ ඔන්ලයින් තාක්ෂණය හරහා අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් දිගටම අපේ කැමැති පිරිස එකට ජොයින් වෙන කැමැති පිරිසට කැමැති විදිහේ දායකත්වයක් ඒ සඳහා දැක්වීමේ හැකියාව තියෙනවා. මොකද උනන්දුව තියෙන අයකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන නිසා. එහෙම වැඩසටහනක් සූදානම් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒක ගොඩාක් වටිනවා කියලා බොහොම කරුණාවෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරනවා. තෙරුවන් සරණයි හැමදෙනාම.
බොහොම පිං අපේ විමල සාර හාමුදුරුවන්ට අදහස සහ ඒ කාරුණික වචනවලට. ඇත්තරම අපිට සතුටුයි මේ වගේ වැඩසටහනකින් ඒ වගේ උනන්දුවක් තියෙනවා කියලා දැනගන්න ලැබෙන එක. අපි උත්සාහ කරමු. මං හිතන්නේ අපිට කිසිම අනුග්‍රහයක් අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. අපිට පුළුවන් කාලය හොයාගන්න. ඒ කාලය හොයාගෙන එකතු වෙන හාමුදුරුවලට යම්කිසි වැඩමුළුවක් කරන්න මම වුණත් හරිම කැමතියි. මොකද අපිට තියෙන අත්දැකීම අපි බෙදා දෙන තරමට ලොකු දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. නමුත් ඒ දෙයක් අහලා දැනගන්න කවුරු හරි ඉන්න එකත් ලොකු දෙයක් නේ. මොකද අපිට එහෙමත් නැති කාල තියෙනවනේ ජීවිතේ. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ අපිට මඟ පෙන්වීමක් කරන්න අපි කැමතියි. අපි ඒ ගැන හිතලා මම හිතන්නේ අපේ අංශාධිපති හාමුදුරුවෝ, විමලතිස්ස හාමුදුරුවෝ ඇතුළු අපි කතා කරලා අපි ඒ ගැනත් දැනුම් දෙන්නම්. අපිට විශ්වවිද්‍යාලය හරහා ඒක කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් තවත් හොඳ නිසා. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි එකතු වෙලා කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් අපිට ප්‍රයෝජනයක් වෙයි කියලා අපිට කොහොමත් උනන්දුවක් තියෙනවා. එන්න බැරි හාමුදුරුවලට පස්සුවට ඒකට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. එතකොට දැන් තේරවාද බුදුදහම කියලා අපි දැන් මමත් ඒ විදියට ඒ බුදුදහම විතරයි දැනගෙන හිටියේ. නමුත් මම හාවර්ඩ් විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයට ආව ගමන් මට තේරුණා කොරියන් බුදුදහම, ජපනීස් බුදුදහම, එහෙම එක එක රටින් රටට ඒක වෙනස් විදියට එක එක අය එක එක විදියට ඒක අනුගමනය කරනවා. ඉතින් මට මුලදී හිතේ තිබුණ නැහැ ඒ ධර්මයන් හොඳයි කියලා. පස්සේ මට තේරෙන්න ගත්තා එහෙම අදහසක ඉන්න එක හරි වැරදි කියලා. මොකද මේ රටවල් වල එකක් තමයි එක එක හේතු මත ටිබෙටන් බුදු දහම ගොඩක් ප්‍රසිද්ධයි. ඒක ගැන මම මෙහෙම ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න කැමති නැහැ. මේ යම්කිසි දේශපාලන හේතුවකුත් ඒකට තියෙනවා. ඉතින් එහෙම තියෙද්දී අපි මම මේ වැඩසටහන් වලට ගිහිල්ලක් තියෙනවා. ඒ පොත් කියවලක් තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒ තැන්වල තියෙනවා අපේ තේරවාදයට ආපු නැති සමහර පුහුණු ක්‍රම. එකක් තමයි ඔය ටිබෙටන් සම්ප්‍රදායේ සමහර භාවනා ගුරුවරයෙක් බවට එම්පවර් වෙන්න නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ භාවනාවෙන් මරණය පවා අර out of body experience කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක පවා අත්විඳලා තියෙන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒගොල්ලෝ ගුරුවරයෙක් විදිහට qualify වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේ සමහර සම්ප්‍රදාය තියෙනවා අපේ ලංකාවේ තේරවාදයට ගිලිහිලා ගියපු හෝ අපි ඒ තරම් එහෙම හිතන්නේ නැති. ඉතින් චීන සම්ප්‍රදායෙත් ඒව තියෙනවා. චීන සම්ප්‍රදායෙන් ආපු එක කතාවක් මම කියන්නම්. අනාලයෝ හාමුදුරුවෝ මේක පොතක ලියලා තියෙනවා Signlessness කියන පොතේ. ඒ හාමුදුරුවෝ ලංකාවට හරිම ආදරේ හාමුදුරු නමක්නේ. ලංකාවට අදාළ කතාවක් නෙවෙයි. නමුත් මේ අනිත් සම්ප්‍රදාය වලින් අපිට ඉගෙන ගන්න තියෙන දේවල්. ඒකේ කියනවා මේ එක චීන ආගම කියලානේ කියන්නේ චීන ත්‍රිපිටකයට. කියනවා මේ බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ අතර තිබිච්ච සංවාදයක්. රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ ළඟට ගිහිල්ලා ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා I want to do solitary practice කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ මට කාලයක් හුදෙකලාව භාවනා කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ පිළිතුරු දෙනවා you are not ready yet කියලා. ඔබ ඒකට සූදානම් නැහැ. එතකොට රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ අහනවා what should I do? එතකොට බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ පිළිතුරු දෙනවා you should go teach. ගිහිල්ලා උගන්වන්න. what should I teach? මොනවද මම teach කරන්න ඕනේ? එතකොට රාහුල හාමුදුරුවන්ට බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ පිළිතුරු දෙනවා go teach the 5 aggregates. පංච ස්කන්ධ ගැන උගන්වන්න. රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ උගන්වලා ආවට පස්සේ කියනවා now I taught it. මම ඒක උගන්වලා ඉවරයි. what should I do next? එහෙම බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ කියනවා දේශන පිළිතුරු දෙනවා ආයතන 6 උගන්වන්න. ඊට පස්සේ ආර්ය සත්‍ය 4 උගන්වන්න. ඊට පස්සේ අෂ්ටාංගික මාර්ගය උගන්වන්න. ඔහොම ගොඩාක් දේවල් උගන්වන්න කියලා කියනවා. රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ ඒ ඔක්කොම කරලා බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ ළඟට ආවට පස්සේ බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ දේශනා කරනවා අර කලින් you are not ready yet කියලා හැම අවස්ථාවකම කිව්වට දැන් කියනවා now you are ready. all you have to do is දැන් ඔබ සූදානම් කරන්න තියෙන එකම දේ ගිහිල්ලා you reflect on the dhamma that you taught. උගන්වපු ඒ ධර්ම කරුණු ගැන ගිහිල්ලා මෙනෙහි කරන්න. ඒක තමයි ඔබේ solitary practice එක වෙන්නේ කියලා. අපි මම ඕක දැන් වස් කාලෙදි මේ පාර නිතර ඕක මතක් කරා. වස් කාලෙදි වෙන්නේ භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා මේ ධර්මයේ දේශනා කරන එකනේ. ඒකින් අපිට හිතාගන්න බැරි පරිචයක් ලැබෙනවා. අනිත් එක තමයි වස් කාලෙදි මම පටන් ගත්ත එකක් තමයි උදේ 7ට හැමදාම මම ලයිව් ස්ට්‍රීම් එකක් දෙනවා YouTube එකේ ඔය channel එකේම. මම ඔය channel එකේ උදේ 7ට guided meditation එකක් කරනවා. මෙහි ඊස්ටර්න් වෙලාවෙන් ඇමරිකාවේ වෙලාවල් කිහිපයක් තියෙනවානේ. අපි ඉන්නේ නිව්යෝර්ක් ආසන්න ප්‍රදේශවල. එතකොට මෙහි වෙලාවෙන් මම ස්ට්‍රීම් එකක් දෙනවා. ඒ කරන්නේ මගේ පුහුණුවට. ඒකට අනිත් අය සම්බන්ධ වුණත් නැතත් මම ඒක කරනවා. ඒ වගේ අපි මොකක් හෝ වෙලාවක අපිටම තමයි ඒකේ බෙනිෆිට් එක ලැබෙන්නේ. ඉතින් අර රාහුල හාමුදුරුවෝ කතාවේදී වෙන්නේ ඒක චීන සම්ප්‍රදායේ අපිට ගිලිහිලා තියෙන කතාවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ අපිට අනිත් සම්ප්‍රදායෙන් දේවල් ඉගෙන ගන්නත් පුළුවන්. අපි උගන්වන්න ගිහිල්ලා අපිටම හිතාගන්න බැරි පිළිතුරු අපෙන් එනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ කෙනෙක් ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහුවම අපි දන්නේ නැහැ අපි කොහොමද ඒකට ඒ තරම් හොඳ උත්තරයක් දුන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් බුදුහාමුදුරුවෝ ඒ චීන සම්ප්‍රදායේ ඒකෙන් උගන්වන්නේ අපි වස් කාලෙකදී දෙයක් උගන්වද්දී ධර්මයක් දේශනා කරද්දී අපිටම ඒකේ බෙනිෆිට් එක ලැබෙන්නේ කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අපි භික්ෂුන් වහන්සේලා විදියට අනිකුත් සම්ප්‍රදායන් හැම දෙයකින්ම දෙයක් ඉගෙන ගන්න තියෙනවා කියලායි. මොකද අපි ග්ලෝබල් සිටිසන්ස්ලා වෙන්නනේ ඕනේ. ලෝකයේහි මෙහි ඉන්නකොට විශේෂයෙන් ඇමරිකාවේ ඉන්නකොට අපිට හැම ආගමික ශාස්ත්‍රවරයෙක්ගේ දෙයක්ම භාවිත කරන්න වෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් මම His Holiness the Dalai Lama කියලා තමයි මම කතා කරන්නේ. Dalai Lama කියලා නිකම්ම කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ. මේ ලෝකේ කතා කරන උන්වහන්සේට ගරු කරන විදියක් තියෙනවා. උන්වහන්සේ කරන ප්‍රකාශයක් තමයි ඒක මම නිතර කියනවා. Man sacrifices his health to make wealth and then he sacrifices his wealth to regain his health. ඒ කියන්නේ මනුස්සයා දැන් කරන්නේ තමන්ගේ සෞඛ්‍යය නැති කරගෙන සෞඛ්‍යයට කියන්නේ health එකනේ, ඒක නැති කරගෙන wealth එක හොයනවා, ධනය හොයනවා. නමුත් දැන් ඊට පස්සේ කරන්නේ ධනය වේදම් කරගෙන health එක හොයනවා. ඒ වගේ ප්‍රකාශ උන්වහන්සේ දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒවා ලෝකේ ප්‍රසිද්ධ වෙච්ච ප්‍රකාශ. ඉතින් ඒවා මම භාවිත කරන්නේ නැත්නම් මම අන්ධයි. එනිසා මම ඒ වගේ සරල දෙයක් තමයි සමහර ලාවට පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ. ඉතින් මගේ ගාව එකතුවක් තියෙනවා. මම පාවිච්චි කරන ෆෝන් එකේ මම දැක්කොත් විශේෂ කෝට් එකක්, විශේෂ මේ ආදර්ශ පාඩයක් මම ඒක ලියා ගන්නවා. ඒක මම කැටගරයිස් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් කෙනෙක්ගේ විවාහය සම්බන්ධ අවස්ථාවක් ආවොත් මෙන්න මේ ස්ටෝරීස් ටික තමයි මම තියන් ඉන්නේ. මට ක්වික්ලි ඒ ෆෝන් එකට ගියාම මට ඒ වෙලෙම බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් මෙන්න මේ වගේ ස්ටෝරි එකක් මම රීඩ් කරලා තියෙනවනේ කියලා. ඒකෙන් මම කියනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒවයි ඔය අජාන් බ්‍රහම් වගේ හාමුදුරුවෝ කියන කතා තියෙනවනේ. ඒ උන්වහන්සේ කතා නෙමෙයි එක එක වෙලාවට කියනවා ඔය වෙඩින් ගැන කියද්දි උන්වහන්සේ කියන එකක් තමයි man puts on 3 rings. මනුෂ්‍යයා rings 3ක් දානවා, මුදු 3ක් දානවා. First ring is the engagement ring. The second ring is the wedding ring. And then he asks the audience what is the third ring. එහෙම අහලා එකපාරටම කියනවා suffering කියලා. දුක කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ එකක් කිව්වම ඔක්කොම hina වෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ අර අපිට පුළුවන් මිනිස්සු අතරට සමහරවිට ඒගොල්ලෝ සැහැල්ලු වෙන දෙයක් කියලා හිමීට ඒගොල්ලන්ට සමීප වෙන්න සහ ධර්මයේ අතරේ ෆ්ලේවර් එකක් විදියට දෙන්න. ඉතින් ඒවා නිතරම අපි එකතු කරගෙන තියාගන්න ඕනේ. දැන් මම තව කරන දෙයක් තමයි WhatsApp group එකක් තියෙනවා. උදේ 8ට මම හැමදාම මොකක් හරි ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් ප්‍රකාශයක් විස්ඩම් කෝට් එකක් යවනවා ඩේලි විස්ඩම් කියලා. ඒකේ ඉන්නවා දැන් 350ක් විතර අය මේ රටවල අය. එතකොට සිංහලෙනුත් ඕන අයට මම සිංහලෙන් කුසල සිතුවිලි කියලා එකක යවනවා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ අපිට පුළුවන් අපේ කොටස කරන්න. එතකොට අපිත් ඒක ඒ කෝට් එක අපිට රෙසනේට් වෙනවා, අපිට අදාළ වෙනවා. ඒ වගේ මේක අපි අසුරු කරන අනිත් පිරිසකටත් යනවා. හැමදාම උදේට පොසිටිව් තෝට් එකකුත් අපිට කල්ටිවේට් කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබෙනවා. ඉතින් ඒකත් එක්ක මම කිව්වේ අර තමන්ගේම මෙඩිටේෂන් ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එක ඩේලි කරගෙන යනවා නම් 30 minutes a day. Sometimes you could do 40 minutes. You don't even realize that you are doing it for 40 minutes. It becomes so easy and you just do it. And without it, in the beginning, of course, for 6 months, you will not get it. It takes time to develop that as a habit for your mind. But when you really get the hang of it, your day cannot go without meditation. You just see that as an important integral part of your life. වටිනම කොටසක් විදියට අපි ගැන awareness එකක් develop වෙනවා. අපේ සෞඛ්‍යය ගැන, අපේ sugar habits ගැන, exercise workout habits ගැන ඔය ඔක්කොම ගැන අපිට awareness එකක් develop වෙනවා. එහෙම වෙනකොට අපිටම තේරෙනවා මේ meditation එකෙන් අපිටයි benefit එක ලැබෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒකෙදි loving kindness meditation ඔයගේ ඒවට අදාළ ස්ටෝරීස් එන ඔක්කොම අපිට ෆෝන් එකේ එකතු කරලා තියාගන්න පුළුවන් එක එක headings යටතේ. එහෙම වුණාම whenever you have a moment to share something, you just go to your phone and then or you go to your computer or your email, you find that story and then you just share that freely. You could also read it to them and then say, now I have done reading it. And you could ask questions about it. You could engage in a discussion with them. So, don't hesitate to read anything. Because here in the US, even the greatest of speakers sometimes prepare with us, something to read. First they read it, and then they would engage in a conversation. And that conversation becomes so engaging because what that person read is helpful for the audience to gather some thoughts. and also the speaker to gather his own mind. Sometimes the speaker is not quite ready to speak, and for that they need to just read something and then eventually join the audience with a discussion. So your mind will always tell you you cannot do it, but challenge your mind. When I did my first solo teaching of a 10-day retreat, my mind was telling me, you cannot do it, you will make mistakes. But who cares? I didn't care it. I taught it. And then I told my mind that you could do it. That is how you challenge yourself. When your voice of your head say you cannot do it, you have to prove to yourself that you could. Maybe you are not a natural in giving speeches, and that is okay. That is completely okay. You find a way to somehow engage with your audience, and then in a big retreat like that, every day you could share 10 sutras each evening, and all you have to do is to read the sutra and then stop at some place and then explain a little bit and read a little bit more and explain, so that you are speaking directly from the Buddha's own words. For that, you have to have a good reading of the sutras in mind. Middle length discourses, long discourses, or Sutta Nipata, any, Dhammapada, you could use Dhammapada. You could do a recitation and then add an English translation. So any of these creative ways to engage with the audience, and just knowing your audience alone is enough. Storytelling, humor, clarity, using modern tools and quotes, handling difficult questions with grace. You could say, I may need a little more time to respond to this question. I may have to read that book before I respond. You could just be humble like that. And then you have to have a cultural sensitivity. Maybe I would stop after sharing this story. There was a famous monk from Sri Lanka. He traveled to UK, and he said something that sparked anger in the audience. He was speaking about karma, and the way the karma is presented in some of the texts is that some people, he said something like, you are born black if you did bad karma. This did not go very well. And I don't think that the text even support that kind of idea. Somehow, the moment he shared it, the audience was very upset. There can be black friends. Black is a word you could use in a racially challenged country. Sometimes you have to be careful. You need to know the cultural diversity of the country by studying in a country. Even if you come to United States or Canada, you can go to a community college, never stay in the temple, just go engage with the community and learn the cultural differences. They always, in the moment they see you, they would respect you. So you do also need to engage with them and gradually learn to speak and learn the cultural differences, having the cultural sensitivity. And you would never say another monk, who gave a retreat here at the New England Buddhist temple, that is the temple in Boston, said somebody fell when somebody's leg was numb when they were trying to sit too long, and he said something like, it's because you are fat. This should never be said like that. You could say something kind, like, can you just stretch a little bit? Can you be a little bit gentle and take the time to get up and then stretch? That would have landed so well in the hearts of the audience. So you have to know the cultural sensitivities. You would never do body shaming and say someone is fat, anything like that. You have to be super mindful. And also, always, like I said, time it and put it all together, come to a conclusion, and then be coherent. Whatever you say the next, and then tie it all together at the end. So you will be good to go. Thank you for listening. Any last questions? Okay, that will be it. Thank you.
So, okay, Venerable Sir, You gave us a very fruitful discussions for the audience. I think many of participants could get much more details how we engage with the preachings in English. So, as a convener of these sessions, so I would like to conclude what you said here. So, actually, you mentioned here that we should definitely consider about. Sorry for that. So, we have a request from the
Sumedha, right?
Sumedha.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Hello, Sumedha. Feel free to ask. You may have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Can you unmute Sumedha? Can Sumedha unmute himself? Let me see. Yeah, I cannot do it from my end.
Sumedha, could you please speak up? So until then, so I would like to conclude what you said here. That so right. Okay, it's time for Sumedha Viraj. You can.
Thank you, Venerable Sirs, and the most respected Venerable Tero, the Kirama Vimalatissa Tero, I think the head of the department, has organized a very good event for the young Buddhist monks. And also, I highly appreciate the resource person's way of speaking and, how he sharing, his thoughts with these young Buddhist monks, especially his way of speaking, right, as a Buddhist monk. It's very, impressive, right? And I would like to further elaborate this session with 2 points, Venerable Sir. That's about that translation issues. So we know that we already know the Pali language and the Buddha's teaching, but we are in the foreign countries, so we use English. So there are so many translation issues, right? So as young Buddhist monks, they need to pay their special attention regarding on this translation issues. In case so, we can mention some, example like this. The Buddha says that Rupang Anatta, Rupang Anicca. So when we come to the English translation, so we use matter is impermanent. So when we say it like this, so is there, right? Be verb is. So it's mean that some existence is there, right? So the people would understand with the sense of existence, but it doesn't mean the deep knowledge what the Buddha means, So I would like to pay your attention regarding these matters as well. And it quietly different what the Buddha's teaching mentioned, right? So, Bhante, can you please further elaborate these kind of thoughts, sharing your insight with these young Buddhist monks? So I highly appreciate.
Do you have a second question as well?
Effort of that.
Did you have a second question as well, or is?
Yeah, of course, and that is about that misinterpretation to the Dhamma. It's me. So we need to be very careful of Dhamma because misinterpretation is there. Most of the books as well. So in my experience, if you think about that mindfulness, so in the sense that mindfulness we talks about in other audience, so they would understand in their experience of mindfulness. But we need to be sure about is that exactly Buddha means in the sutta. So that is something about rising and ceasing of that, So with the knowledge of that, we need to pay our attention regarding this matter. So this kind of misinterpretation will be there. So as Dhamma preachers, Dhamma preaching in English language, so we need to pay our attention regarding this matter. I would like to pay your attention regarding this, Bhante. So thank you very much.
No, that's a very good question, Sumedhu Mahatma. Are you joining from Sri Lanka or some other place?
Bhante, this time I'm in Delhi,
Delhi,
Delhi University, pursuing my PhD.
Okay, all the best with your studies and finishing the program. So I am grateful to you for this very beautiful, meaningful question. Yes, things get lost in translation. And yesterday we had a live session from Toronto. Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi was asked this question. And the question was, do you think that when things are being translated from Pali to English, do you think that a lot of things are lost? And Bhikkhu Bodhi said, yes, a lot of things are lost. And everybody laughed at this. So depending on the audience, now it becomes the responsibility of the monk to actually translate what the text implies. When it says Rupang Anatta, you have no way to precisely translate it. That will be a challenge. So I remember early this year when I was in Bhavana Society in West Virginia, Venerable Saddha got sick, so I had to lead the session. And in that day we had the Anatta Lakkana Sutta, the discourse on non-self characteristics to be given. And I said in that, I began it saying that in the first sermon of the Buddha said, Sankittena Panchupadana Kanda Dukkha. In brief, 5 clinging aggregates is dukkha, is suffering. So I had to explain what 5 clinging aggregates are, and then what clinging means, and what rupa means, what anatta means, and then what dukkha means. So it takes about an hour for us to explain all that. So I think to your question, we could use a sutra like that and then imply the sense of anatta, non-self nature, into an explanation of what rupang is. Rupang in that sense is often translated as the material body, which consists of the 4 elements, and then anatta can be explained together with that, saying that it does not have a lasting self. It does not abide by the commands of a self. And the Buddha's way of explaining it is that, you know the physical eye, and you know its disappearance upon death. You know the visual objects, and you know how they arise and pass away. Samudaya Vaya, as you mentioned, arising and cessation. And you know their, what the product of it, the eye consciousness, the Tinnan Sangati Passo, the meeting of the 3, brings also a contact. And you have to have the knowledge of this to explain how things arise independently in that instant. And then also show when this is not there, that will not arise. Just also the cessation phenomena of the dependent origination. To successfully teach them that this is what the Buddha actually meant by non-self. You need to always be prepared to give an explanation in a way that is easier for them to understand. So when I try to teach non-self teachings in Europe with my student friends, and they said it's easier to understand or accept or believe that there is a self than trying to understand that there is no self, because it became very hard to them. At the time, I didn't use any sutras. I was just using what I know about it, but that didn't really make much sense to them. So this is a kind of a continuous challenge that we may be facing. And I believe the sutra knowledge comes in handy. So it's best to listen to Bhikkhu Bodhi's sutra discussions online or any other sutra discussions of any other monks, so that you have a solid knowledge and a foundation to respond to a question about that. It doesn't matter what direction it goes to, whether it is on dependent origination, 5 aggregates, 3 characteristics, or noble truth. You could always bring the philosophy to it when the audience is ready. If not, if they are not ready, then you are just wasting your time. I believe that answers your question. Thank you for the wonderful question. Any other questions? Okay, we could conclude.
Yes, Venerable Sir.
Oh, Buddhi has raised the hand. Another question.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, you gave us good explanations and guidance when we are engaged with the preachings activity. So I would like to conclude actually these sessions. So you mentioned here and you paid our attention here that considerations of the audience and as well as the suitable terminologies according to the situations and using particular stories. And finally, you paid our attention to the definitely we should have to consider about the cultural diversity. So I think that we were able to got specific points from your speech.
Thank you.
So then I don't like to extend this session. So I would like to express my sincere gratitudes on behalf of the department, especially Buddhist and Pali Studies of the Bhikshu University of Sri Lanka, for your invaluable guidance and support in the enhancing the English language skill for Dhamma preachings. So your teachings actually have not only improved our ability to communicate the Dhamma more effectively, but have also inspired us to share the profound wisdom of the Buddha with a broader audience. So finally, may your efforts continue to bring blessings and benefit to all beings, and may you be blessed with long life, good health, and happiness. So thank you very much for the every persons who gathered here. Especially, I would like to thank the head of the department, Most Venerable Kirma Vimnati Satero. So thank you very much, and good night, all of you.
Well, I will conclude also by saying thank you for the invitation, and Venerable Sasana Ratana also made it so easy and comfortable for me to start the event and also be with you all. And I also thank Venerable Kirama Vimalati Sahamduru for coordinating this and overseeing this whole thing. And this one last thing, this is about sharing merits, and you can all learn how I share merits at the end of an event. So this is how I do it, and you could also memorize this and do it. I would just ask everybody to close their eyes and join their palms together and join with me with this wish. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we have thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That works in any situation. Thank you. I know Buddhi raised the hand. You could send the question maybe in an email or through Facebook, and I will be happy to answer. Thank you.